Oh boy, I tell you, it's been Lizzo is causing so much harm and suffering. And not just physical suffering, but let me explain to you what just happened. Um, yeah, we just had an incident where Lizzo communicated with me brain to brain. Yesterday, I was working, I made some Russian potato salad, and toward about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I got a communication, a brain to brain communication, where Brent said he wanted me to go lay down on my bed and that he needed to talk to me about something. It wasn't Brent. I found out later that it was Lizzo impersonating him. And she told me that, you see, I forward all of Tucker Carlson's posts to my website because I was upset that Fox fired him because I respect his authenticity and courage, okay? And so I keep up with his posts, and he just made a video where he exposed Barack Obama as this crack gay lover. I didn't have a problem with Barack Obama being a crack gay lover, but what I had a problem with is as I was listening to Tucker's presentation, not Tucker, yeah, Tucker's presentation about, he had a guest speaker who was exposing how Barack Obama supposedly had gay sex using crack, which frankly to me, I'm lackadaisical about that. You know, what people want to do in their love life is their business, as long as they're not hurting anyone. The problem that I had was when I was watching Tucker's presentation, he said that Barack sent hit squads to kill anybody who exposed his lifestyle, just because he was worried that if it got exposed, he wouldn't be elected president. Now that's what I had a problem with, and I don't know if that's true or not. And I heard from this person who was impersonating Brent to me that that Barack Obama was launching a slew of lawsuits against Tucker for defamation, and that he planned to put Tucker into bankruptcy. And then this brain-to-brain communicator was telling me that that as a result of that, Tucker was in big trouble. And Brent was asking me, what do you advise I do? And I told Brent, well, you're the president. Do you really need my help? And he thought, yeah, well, Tucker seems to be in big trouble. And that was a false communication. Like I found out later that Lizzo was impersonating Brent to me brain to brain, which isn't very comforting because it means I can't trust my brain to brain. And so I thought, well, why don't you just look at my old laws? I'm very hesitant about going into the president job because it usually results in disaster. So I said, why don't you just look at my old law and just see if you can use some of it to enforce? I said, let me just go through it and see if I find something. And I found an old law that I wrote in 2018, and it was under international marriage laws, which basically was laws against tyranny, harassment, and it was against SJWs, okay? And basically, the law stated that you can't force someone to go against their, to promote your lying agenda, and that we could bomb legal offices that were not in compliance with this law. And I thought maybe this would be really useful to deal with this. And I said, just throw the cases out. That would work. I mean, if it doesn't honor conspiracy law, just throw the cases out. So I was basically giving take it or leave it advice. Okay? And I typed this up at Skype, and I was having some fun trying to find old laws that I thought would be helpful. I thought, you just need to enforce some of my old laws, Brent. Well, I found out, I got a communication from Zach, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it. Let me see, here it is. Let's see, here it is. He was telling me how somebody tried to carry out what they thought was a new law that I had written. I believe that we were all victims of brain control. I think Lizzo used brain control to get me, well, first of all, she gave me a false brain-to-brain communication, okay? And then she used brain control to get me to be obsessed with protecting Tucker. Yeah, I'm very passionate about people having freedom and authenticity, okay? And I don't like it when anybody tries to go against that. So let me just read you what I got a communication from Zach late at night, and this is what he said. Let me see if I can. He said, "I'm comforting Terrance. An old friend of his in the legal system contacted the Bank of Jesuits, who carried out an unhealthy elements bombing attack to seize $1 billion from one and $1 million from the other." Yeah, part of my law said, that unhealthy elements would be anything with brain-controlled drugs and stuff, and of course was going to declare war on them and have them executed while taking all the money. That was an old law that I wrote in 2018, which apparently Brent has decided not to enforce, and I'm going to respect that. He's the president. So my answer was, well, Zach, I'm not the president, you guys. You don't have to listen to me. He said, well, he was just trying to carry out the law. The banker handed Terrance's old friend a form to seize the assets, and as he started filling it out and showed the banker the court order, he said, this is so sad. He was trying not to be anti-Semitic, but if only. Maybe he would have noticed that their noses and ears were so pointy. All the Jesuit Jew bankers swarmed him. They held him down and shoved something called a squirting dragon dildo down his throat. The Jew bankers began pumping semen through the squirting dragon dildo into his stomach. It inflated his body like a semen-filled balloon. And then I asked, was that Brent who spoke to me brain to brain and wanted advice from me earlier? And then here's what Zach said. Then this especially Jewy banker revealed a big needle, and he popped Terrance's lifelong legal friend. Basically, they blew him up with semen, and then they poked him with a needle, and he exploded. So then I asked, was that Brent who spoke to me brain to brain? I asked because I was starting to suspect that this brain to brain communication that I thought I got was not from Brent. And then he said, I said, was that Brent who spoke to me brain to brain and wanted advice from me earlier? And then Zach asked, what was the advice about? And I told Zach, I thought Brent wanted advice from me about how to deal with a bunch of lawsuits against Tucker Carlson, supposedly from Barack Obama. And then Zach said, oh, about Obama being a cocaine faggot? And I said, yeah. He said, well, he was before his head was in a jar. Yeah, we're dealing with the Barack Obama automaton. The real Barack got murdered in 2012. And I said, huh? Zach said it was a pretty open secret. Obama was a gay who did cocaine with weird gay dudes, and Michelle Obama has a penis. It's all true. And I said, well, was Tucker being sued? And then Zach said, Obama was a good black friend of Vladimir Putin, even though he was a dick-sucking cocaine faggot. And then I asked, was Tucker being sued, Zach? And then Zach said, no, I don't think he's being sued. And I thought, oh, brother, see, because that's what I was upset about. And I said, sounds like I heard from Lizzo brain to brain impersonating Brent. That's what made me decide to advise Brent about conspiracy law. In that case, just ignore everything I said about conspiracy law then. If Brent's the president, he can override my law if he wants or change it. A president is a lawmaker. And then Zach said, didn't you just write this law though? I said, no, it's an old law that I wrote in 2018. And then Zach said, but it mentions Lizzo. And I said, yeah, I just changed the term Lori McBride Jesuit in the law to Lizzo Jesuit. It's an old law that I wrote in 2018. It's been on the book since 2018. And then Zach said, looks like maybe Lizzo tricked you into sending the law update in order to get us to try to enforce it and kill them. I said, the only update is that I changed Lori McBride Jesuit to Lizzo Jesuit in the law. It's an old law that apparently has not been enforced. And then Zach said, I noticed some of the events in your latest book had stuff that wasn't accurate too. It might be that Lizzo's feeding little things that are believable. I was meaning to give revisions. I said, oh really? I wish you'd all let me know when I do this. That's why I send you the drafts. And then Zach said it makes sense that Lizzo was doing it. For example, it depicted me at age 16 and saying howdy. I don't think they've made this into a film yet. But I would kick a guy's ass if they said howdy. And I was born in the 16th century, and I thought, whoa, this is interesting. Zach, you need to let me know about your history. And I think I'd have been 17 years old when I was in the year that you had me cameo in the book. And I said, I didn't say you were 16 years old. And Zach says, I can't get into some of the details, but I was thinking I should correct some of the details of the events. I think it said I looked 16. Yeah, I think I do remember saying that. And I said, how about my Brent stories? Are they accurate? I send them to you so that you'll correct me if I'm wrong. And he said that he says, I think we haven't seen any real errors until the recent updates. I said, are you mad at me? And Zach said, no, not at all. I'm a bit peeved at Lizzo. I said, that's understandable. I said, was the UFO scene accurate? I had a UFO scene in my latest story. Okay, I'm going to skip all this and get off to the main point. Yeah, so he said, I just assumed you were taking creative license with my parts in the book, but realized she might have been feeding you wrong stuff. I don't know if I can blame Lizzo for the wrong stuff. I think it could just be my creative imagination. However, she definitely gave me a bad brain to brain. I said, to be honest with you, I've been taking a lot of creative license because I depend on you all to correct me when I'm wrong. I try to put in scenes that I think must have happened, but sometimes I have to make intelligent guesses. I don't think I could make the deadlines if I had to interview you all for every little detail. I said, what are you particularly peeved at Lizzo about? And he said, well, that she caused Terrance's lifelong friend to be murdered through being inflated with semen via a squirting dragon dildo and then popped like an overfilled water balloon. So I told Zach, please feel free to make corrections to dialogue and plot if I'm way off. I'm open to it. Collaboration would be the way to go on a writing project like this. So Zach said, okay, I can send you corrections. Some of the actual events and plot points are going a bit outside of the true events, so I'll just send you corrections. And I said, if you decide to enforce that law about seizing assets, I'd recommend you do it in a manner where you don't have to deal directly with Jesuits, maybe use automatons. And then Zach said, I think the real issue is that Jesuits use Jesuit banks run by Jesuit Jews. And we're at war, so they're pretty unresponsive to our laws. And I said, well, then that law won't work. Brent's the president. So just ignore everything I said about the law then. Also, Jesuits are a semen-based economy, so Jesuit dollars are pretty different. You know what's cool though? My face is still on the Jesuit dollar like an old president. And then I told Zach, I write what I know, but I apparently need more info, so I depend on you guys to let me know when I'm off. Okay, well, good thing is it was only the most recent book. I hope they haven't made productions off the inaccurate books. And Zach said, I think the future books with stuff after you got on YouTube can go faster because the stories are well documented for you and you can make those shorter, like short stories. I hope they haven't. And then Zach said, no, they have not made productions off the inaccurate books. That's good. And then I told Zach, yeah, I agree. I think my later stories are going to go faster. So these early 1990 stories, I have to do a lot of research because I didn't have good communication with Brent at that time, okay? Brent was not able to talk to me. So I had to guess on a lot of stuff that happened on his end. And Zach said, you're still laying out the beginnings. All of these details are things many of your fans don't know and explain so much. And I told Zach, these earlier books, things aren't so black and white, and I need to do a lot of research. I'm guessing in a lot of stuff with Brent too, so I hope he corrects me when I'm wrong. And Zach said he seemed super happy with the books we've had reading parties, when we've had reading parties before. I said, and he said, all the men sit around and read them. I thought, wow, that's amazing. So I asked Zach to make some corrections, you know. I told him, I depend on you all to help me when I have to guess in a scene, and I could very well be wrong. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. I want this to be right. Zach said, okay, awesome. I've been doing a lot more guessing than I'm comfortable with, but it just seems that certain scenes have to be there to make sense of this. And I said, hey, did those Lizzo Jesuits kill Terrence's friend? And he said, yeah, they did. Oh, she's dropping bombs like crazy. And I said, that really sucks. He said, as he was trying to enforce the law and deliver the court order to seize $1 billion and $1 million and declare war and execute the Jesuits, the Jew bankers all swarmed him and held him down. And I told him I was just trying to be helpful based on what I thought Brent was said to me, brain to brain. It was take it or leave it advice. That they took out this big squirting dragon dildo, shoved it down his throat, and began injecting Jesuit semen into his stomach. And then I told Zach I was basically reminding you all of an old law that I wrote. And then Zach said the semen inflated him like an overfilled human water balloon. And then one of the Jew bankers pulled out a needle and popped him. And he said, I'll show you a photo of what a Jew banker looks like. I'll put that in this video. I said, did Brent approve of this before, this happened? He said, nope. We just believed it was a new law because we saw Lizzo was in the law. Terrence's friend was tasked with enforcing laws. Okay, you guys need to change this. This is not good, okay? Yeah, I'll talk about it later, okay? I said, oh dear, you all should know better than to listen to me without getting Brent's approval first. I said, I think we're all victims of brain control. And he showed me a picture of Jew bankers. I said, Brent is the president, you guys. Don't forget it. I said, Lizzo is good at setting us up. She used brain control on all of us. Never carry out any orders from me or obey any laws without consulting with Brent first. Brent is the president. Brent is the president. Brent is the president. He said Zach said we probably should warn people and try to honor Terrence's friend. So I told him I'd be mentioning him in the YouTube video I'm making today. That was yet last night. I said, he said, Terrence is really mourning him. He was asked to identify the body, but I said, do you know his name? He was basically a popped semen-filled balloon. Yeah, Chester Copperpot. So I said, what's so sad about all this is that I was just revamping an old law and giving take it or leave it advice. All I did... Let me get some water, you guys. Okay, goodness. She gave me a nasty... her bombs are terrible. So, all I did was put the name Lizzo in place of Lori McBride, Jesuit, in the old law, just to make it obvious that they had law to deal with this problem because I thought Tucker was being sued. I said, Lizzo seems to be a master at getting people to misunderstand me. And then Zach said, yeah, that fat black bitch. I said, I'm trying very hard not to do the president job because it always ends up like this. She tricked me into thinking Brent wanted my advice. And Zach said, that sneaky bitch. And she'll never take responsibility for her own actions, too. So I said, it seems whenever I try to be the president that you all understand my intentions and go about it all wrong, too. I suspect we all are under brain control. And Zach said, yeah, I can take partial responsibility for my part in that. I said, the safest course is just don't do anything without Brent's approval unless it's a dire emergency. Zach said, good idea. I said, Brent's a natural as a leader and has very good judgment. Zach said, yeah, I'm falling asleep. It's getting late. Yeah, it was midnight about at this time. We should pick this up tomorrow and I can give my edits. And then I said, yeah, we better go to bed. Give me the corrections tomorrow. Thank you. Sorry that Lizzo tricked us. Hopefully we'll always clear with Brent first. Good night, you all. And then Zach said, good night. And then I said, while you're making corrections, can you give me a character sketch on yourself? Like how you came from the 16th century and why? I mean, that's fascinating. This would be fascinating stuff to put in the Gail series. I'm doing the best I can with what I know, but I need help from you guys to make this thing complete and accurate. And then I said, it appears Lizzo used brain control on all of us to punish Terrance Jenkins. She apparently has a lot of borderline rage against fellow blacks who don't support her. They basically dumped her, and she has borderline rage against them. One way to anticipate who she might attack is if you can determine who she'd feel the most rage for dumping her or who she's most jealous of. With her being a borderline, I think she feels, her own race has betrayed her. So she has a lot of rage against her fellow blacks. I'm not sure about her upbringing, but I suspect her black upbringing contributed to her feelings of abandonment. She apparently felt neglected and abandoned as a child. This may be why she eats so much. She ate a lot of comfort food as a child to compensate for this. She's lined up with Satan because she figures that Satan would never dump her. And Satan is being a lot smarter with this Antichrist Lizzo and not beating her up like he did Lori McBride. I think I'll title today's video, Lizzo, the Borderline Rage Brain-Control-Trickster. I'll just report on what if I just report on what she did, she'll gloat. But if I expose why she did it and go into her motives, I truly expose her. The reason she'll gloat is because anything she does that makes Satan happy ensures her Satan will never dump her, and this makes her proud. You see, with Satan, she feels safe and secure. She has a severe case of borderline personality disorder. Again, this is only a suggestion, but when Gabriel Chan of Fox News reports on this, you need to be sure and report it like how I'm going to make today's video. Her borderline personality disorder needs to be a prime focus of the discussion about her and what happened. She's basically collecting brownie points in evil deeds to ensure that Satan never dumps her. She's basically dumped the black community because she's furious at them for dumping her. She's experiencing what I call borderline rage. Her BPD is why she doesn't admit the extent to which she uses brain control, because her goal is to shame her enemies because she feels shame for being dumped. It's kind of complicated, but I'll try to explain it, okay? She can't shame her enemies and make them feel worthless like how she feels deep down if she owns up to the amount of brain control that she uses. Yeah, she's putting a ton of brain control in these bombs that she's putting over our head. I think it would be real helpful to have Gerard Butler do a documentary about borderline rage and how it works in borderlines. And then if I'm right that Lizzo has BPD, borderline personality disorder, show how it manifests itself in Lizzo. By the way, borderlines are master manipulators. They figure out how to keep themselves in relationships after they have their episodes, and so they're real good at figuring out what makes other people feel good about themselves. They have this deep wound for being abandoned and know how that hurts and know how to make others feel worthless, and because that's how they feel for being abandoned. When a borderline deals with anyone who has mental health issues, like I have a tendency towards dependent personality disorder, they will manipulate them in a manner that caters to their mental illness, like their obsessions, their fears, or longings, in order to get them to do her bidding. Lizzo knows that I try to be Brent's dream woman, okay? And So I kind of overcompensate in that direction. It's kind of like I'm a dependent personality type, okay? So she impersonated Brent to me, causing me to feel that Brent wanted my input over a situation she drummed up about Tucker Carlson over his latest Barack Obama video. I try to be a great support to my husband. It appears she also worked on my men and their vulnerabilities, because they like to feel like they honor me to the death, and so they think they honor me by obeying my laws, and she tricked them into thinking that I wrote a new law when I did not. And it's partly my fault because I'm not a very good communicator, okay? And she was getting me obsessed with trying to be like the perfect helper to Brent, so I was going overboard trying to suggest old laws they could, and even going in there changing the name of Lori McBride Jesuit to Lizzo to try to help Brent out. And so, yeah, so here I am, tried to be like the perfect helpmeet to Brent, and actually it's not my fault, okay? Because I am getting over my dependent personality disorder. It's all Lizzo's fault. She just impersonated Brent to me brain to brain, and she tricked me. That's basically what happened. So she's super jealous of me and has a lot of BPD rage against me because I have everything that she wishes she had. Most importantly, I have a band of men who will never abandon me. You get it? She's obsessed with being dumped. Bottom line, we're dealing with an antichrist who has this obsession with being dumped. She only feels like she's safe from being dumped with Satan. And so she does stuff that will ensure she belongs to the Satan community. She knows Satan's rules and follows them to the max to ensure she will always belong in the Satan crowd. She's got this real need to belong somewhere, which is borderline, okay? And feel indispensable to Satan so that he'll never dump her. She is a borderline to the T. Satan's goal is to destroy true love, to prove he has a right to his own space. If she admits she uses brain control, it weakens Satan's argument, so she won't admit it. She's basically trying to be Satan's dream antichrist, just like I try to be Brent's dream woman. We both need to be true to who we really are, okay? She knows Satan is trying to prove that true love is a fairy tale, so we, who are me and my men, who are the standard bearers for true love, must be discredited and made to look like fools. But because we're so smart, I mean, I've got an IQ like 10,000, so is Brent, at least, you know. She has to resort to brain control to do this. This is all being done to get brownie points for Satan. It could also be an attempt to resurrect her image as the hot, bad girl who Satan will never dump, because as you all know, she's been lately getting a lot of bad press because she's getting lawsuits from some of her former dancers who claim she abused them and was toxic with them, you know. And so she might be trying to resurrect her image by making, maybe she's worried Satan's going to dump her now. Yeah, so she's trying to do some stuff, you know, to make sure that Satan won't dump her. That's why she pulled this dirty trick on me and my men, okay? It could be a desperate borderline attempt to make her look like the unbeatable Antichrist and that Satan is a winner and that me and my men are a bunch of losers. You know, after doing an in-depth study of borderlines, I finally figured her out. You can't understand Lizzo, and I think Satan's a borderline too, unless you understand BPD. This is why I think the world needs an education about borderline personality disorder, and especially borderline rage. She attracts followers who feel like the only place where they can belong is with the Lizzo Jesuits, who are certain that anywhere else they would be dumped. It's a band of crazy borderlines filled with borderline rage. I think my sister has a bit of BPD as well. You said you once said, my problem has been more dependent personality disorder. I don't really have a problem with rage, okay? I used to think there are a lot of overlaps between dependent personality disorder and borderline, so I thought I was a bit of a borderline, but I think a more accurate diagnosis of what I've suffered most of my life is dependent personality disorder. Yeah. So here's what her goals are as a borderline. She wants to be the ultimate bad hot girl for Satan. This means anything that props up that image she will do, which involves killing me, killing all those who stand for true love, making true love seem like a fairy tale by any and all means. She's desperate to belong somewhere where she'll never be dumped, and she feels that place is with Satan. She knows for sure she'll never belong with me and my men, and thinks it's impossible to do the Gail commandments, especially for her. So don't expect her to defect to our side. She's that sick of a borderline. So she'd rather camp out in hell and she belongs in hell. That's why she likes it. She's that desperate to belong. That's how she feels. Yeah. I've had time to think about what happened last night, and I feel that me, Zach, and all of us are victims of Lizzo's brain control. And the lesson we're going to learn from all this is we should never do anything in regard to government without consulting with Brent first. He's a very deliberate leader, which is what we need right now. We should come up with some sort of system, I think. And this is, again, I'm not the president. I'm just giving take it or leave it advice here. We should come up with some sort of system to ensure we never take any new governmental, legal, or military actions without getting Brent's approval first, the exception being a true emergency. Okay, I gotta put a new one here. Okay. What's really scary, and I was thinking about this when I went for my walk today. What's really scary was Lizzo yesterday, when I had right after I had that brain-to-brain communication with what I thought was Brent, she was giving a vision to my mind of a third of the courthouses being bombed over this, and I'm glad I didn't write that down anywhere. Apparently, she wanted a repeat of the 72 million doctors that she murdered using brain control on me and my military. But this time, she wanted to do it with the legal system. So she had Brent tell me brain to brain that about a third of the courthouses were being bombed as a result of trying to enforce this old law that I wrote in 2018. That was an incorrect communication, I hope. We don't want that happening. I didn't talk about the false brain to brain because I wasn't sure it was accurate, and I'm not the president, so it's really none of my business. Though, as vice president, I will consult with Brent if he so desires. He seems to be doing just fine without my advice. He has the advantage of having easy access to Church of Gail to get accurate intelligence, too. I don't think anyone can be a good president now with tricky Lizzo if they can't consult with our teams on Church of Gail to get the most accurate intelligence. That's why I cannot be the president. It is so easy for Lizzo to trick me. Borderlines are really good at manipulating, I'm going to tell you. On to a positive note. There is a bright side to all this. We learned a valuable lesson and will hopefully prevent a future calamity like what happened with the 72 million doctors that were killed in August 2022. It could have been 72 million innocent lawmakers killed this time. Better one than 72 million. A way to make up for this would be to give Chester Copperpot a Medal of Honor for helping us to prevent a possible brain control disaster like we had with the 72 million, doctors and medical people. Consider him a martyr who alerted us to Lizzo's tricks. If Brent approves, we can make an automaton of Chester Copperpot, and his job will be to ensure that no new legal, military, or government action can go forward without Brent's approval first, except in the case of a dire emergency. In that case, he will try to consult with Buddha. Believe me, after what he went through, he'd be perfect for this job. I also think Lizzo is trying to create the impression that Brent is not the true president. So we definitely need to make it plain that he is. I've noticed that some men who are attracted to me, and I'm not necessarily referring to men on my marriage list, I'm referring to men in general because I've noticed a lot of guys are attracted to me, are trying to impress me and doing some rather foolish things to do so. The best way to impress me is to be, I'm an asexual person. And I'm very happy with Brent. I'm not looking, but still some men are trying to impress me, I can tell. The best way to impress me is to be a whole, balanced, and peaceful person who is focused on honoring the goodness in the universe. If I give a bad order, or you misunderstand me and think I'm giving an order when I'm not, you will honor me by using your brain and judgment and not doing what I said, or not approving of my actions or writings if they're defective or lack good judgment. I'm impressed by a true humanitarian, not one who slavishly does whatever they think I want. You have to remember, I am a woman after God's own heart. Nothing would make me happier than to see a multiverse filled with goodness where both true and free love prosper. That means more to me than my life. If I make a mistake that would go against that, and you can see the weaknesses of my position, I'd like to be made aware of that so I can correct course. Understand that if I commit an action that seems to go against my ideals, it's, for a true and free love, multiverse, and goodness, it's not intentional. And I'm probably operating from good motives, okay? But I've just been tricked. Like when those 72 million doctors were murdered by Lizzo, because she tricked me, I was under the impression at that time that these medical people were murdering people with the COVID shot. Okay, I felt that they had killed millions already, and that's why I felt justified to bomb the hospitals. Okay, as the president at that time. Yes, I was working off of bad information. Okay, I'm not saying I had completely good motives. There was some fear involved there because I got a notice on my door and it freaked me out that said I had to report if I had any symptoms, and but I also did have some humanitarian motives. Okay, it wasn't all fear and being freaked out. So she's really tricky, So anyways, this is what I'm saying. Understand that if I commit an action that seems to go against my ideals, that it's not intentional, and I'm more than willing to admit I made a mistake and get it right, hopefully get it right before 72 million people are killed, okay? I do feel that Brent has far better judgment than me, and so the best way to honor me at this time is to honor Brent as president and ensure we never do anything new without his approval first. Brent and I both want the same things for the multiverse, and I trust him absolutely to make the decisions that I would approve of, the ones that truly represent how I wish to govern, which is why I gladly have turned over the presidential reign to him. He has the same heart that I do as a world leader, but is blessed with better judgment than me, and more equipped to do the job that I would like to do if I was the world leader, okay, if I was president. What impresses me is authenticity, courage to be vulnerable, a humanitarian heart with a desire to promote true and free love, whatever the cost. What does not impress me is someone who's fake, more concerned about their image than in what is right, and who will go to any lengths to preserve that image in order to impress people with a false self. I have a big distaste for pretense, especially if the pretense results in harm to innocence. Bottom line, I'm more impressed by who a person is as opposed to what they do. So if you want to impress me, be an impressive person. Someone who is authentically courageous and acts out of motives of love, peace, and goodwill. Acts of valor mean nothing if the person behind the valor is not a big person with a big heart. I have to admit, I did watch a movie on Mahatma Gandhi, the movie Gandhi, made in 1982, and it really moved me. He's a prime example of what I'm talking about. I've been listening to a lot of Hindu meditation music lately, ever since I watched that movie. I judge a person not by their actions or their words, but by who I perceive they are. I'm of the belief that if we're awesome on the inside, that is the solution to all of the universe's problems. Our inner awesomeness will spread like a healing balm and offer a peaceful mantra of healing to all the universe. We solve the world's ills by being whole, complete, at peace, and beautiful on the inside. I was concerned, like I said, I was concerned about what I thought was happening to Tucker Carlson, because he gave a report on Barack Obama that seemed to indicate that Barack wanted to protect his false image even with murdering those who exposed his fake image. It was the murder I was concerned over, not his gay or crack lifestyle. I am against anyone trying to force anyone to lie in order to prop up their fake image. And I thought Brent was asking me for advice on how to protect Tucker Carlson, who I see as authentic and courageous, and who I admire as a person. Lizzo told me brain to brain that Barack was trying to launch a slew of lawsuits against Tucker to bankrupt him for exposing Barack Obama's fraud. This was a false communication from Lizzo. First of all, that wasn't Brent brain to brain, that was Lizzo. So I thought Brent was asking for my advice, and I suggested that he just enforce some laws that I'd written in 2018. And in the law, I just changed the term Lizzo, Lori McBride Jesuit to Lizzo Jesuit to make sure everyone understood that the law was still applicable, if it was useful. But Lizzo lied to me brain to brain to appeal to my desire to protect Tucker's freedom and authenticity. Because Barack Obama was not suing Tucker Carlson, because it's a known fact that he's a crack gay person, and it's not a big deal. So if I had known that, I would not have suggested enforcing an old law, which is apparently not a very good law. I really identify with Mahatma Gandhi. And, a lot of his followers had good intentions in trying to bring about positive change in the government because the Indian people felt like slaves under the British rule. But a lot of them went about it all wrong, and it caused Mahatma Gandhi a lot of distress. I will say this much. I can be a bad communicator, okay? So it's partly my fault that this happened. I am a complex person and hard to understand. Brent understands me well, and I've attempted to try to get you all to understand me here, but I wanted to clear this up. And yes, I think we should give a Medal of Honor to this guy, Chester Copperpot, because he has made us aware of, I think he actually spared possibly about 72 million legal people that could have been slaughtered because, because he died because of Lizzo's tricks. And I do believe we caught this problem before it went that far, okay? So I'm glad that, so I think we should give him a Medal of Honor just for that, okay?